Hello, hope we are all good. Today I'm doing a bit of a one-off sit-down video, and it's basically discussing my own use of anabolic steroids, and this is sparked off from an Instagram post I put up about the side effects and just about how it's an underspoken topic within the bodybuilding sphere in the sense of females and their anabolic use, and more importantly the effects that come from using these anabolics, which are very much underspoken about, either through females not wanting to acknowledge them, not checking for them, maybe being in denial. But yeah, this video is very much going to be about me discussing the cycles I've done and the effects that I've experienced, and just maybe shedding some light on, the fact that, if you are going to be going down an assisted route and you are going to choose to take anabolics, such as, Anavar, Primobolan, these are like the commonly used compounds and the ones that I have used myself. If you're going to be going down the kind of route of being an assisted bodybuilder as a female, these are things that you will want to consider, things that are very much real, things that very much do occur because you are a female who is ingesting androgenic hormones. So, more. So that therefore you will experience to some degree, depending on the length of your use, and that is over time as well. So depending on the length of your use and the dosage as well of the things that you take, you will experience side effects to a degree, whether that's internally, your organs, whether that is virilization, so like masculinization for want of a synonym. You will experience some side effects because that is just biology. So to kind of start this off, I guess I would say I made a decision to go down the assisted route last year, so the beginning of last year, January 2022. I started my first anabolic cycle in February 2022, and that was, we ran 3 weeks of Anavar followed by 4 weeks of Primo, just to test both and see which one I got on better with. Now I will say that first time round, this is just, like people sometimes talk about, I'm going to do like a one-off cycle, whatever. I didn't experience any side effects apart from Anavar just seemed to kill my appetite for some reason, and I literally didn't want food at all. And the Primo was absolutely fine, no issues whatsoever, and that was just from a first exposure. And after this, we then took the appropriate amount of time away, and I then did my second cycle July, August of last year. So we had a nice gap in the middle where we tested bloods, made sure everything was okay. Of course, naturally it wasn't. Of course, things like liver, kidney markers were off, and therefore I restored those. I made sure that they were back in line, and by doing that, you will look at taking certain supplementations to help aid in improving these markers before you then retest your bloods to make sure that you're in a position to take anything else again. And this is what should be at least a basic form of safer practice. There is no safe practice if you are taking anabolics. However, there is a way of making it safer and making it a little bit more responsible as well, and not just taking things willy-nilly with no idea where your bloods are, especially afterwards as well, and knowing how to, rectify things when they inevitably are a little bit out of line of normal ranges. So that was that. Second cycle then, I did, let me think. So it's long ago now, but it was my first exposure to injectable Primo. So the first cycle we just did pill form. I think obviously a lot of fear from, females is having to inject. And so Anavar seems like the easier option because you can just take it in a pill form. Obviously, that being the case, you are ingesting it and it's passing through your liver. That's why it's very liver toxic. That's why you will see liver markers off. So there is that certain benefit to injecting instead. And yeah, it means that it also meant I could take a lower dosage of the Primo. This time round, so second cycle, this is when I see that my voice is starting to crack. And this is something that a lot of females won't check. Like if you're listening to me now, you'll think, oh, she sounds absolutely fine. She does not sound like her voice is deepened at all. But I know if I try and like sing a silly high note, I can't go. I physically can't do it now, whereas I used to. So like things like that will help you test if you try and sing like a high pitched song. It doesn't matter if you can sing well or not. That is a really good way. It sounds really silly, but it's a really good way of testing. And there's absolutely no way I can hit those notes anymore. Like my voice just breaks immediately upon trying. And there are plenty of apps that you can download on your phone that like voice testing apps where you can talk into the app and it will detect for you whether your voice is changing. So these are things that you can do as well, because you won't immediately be able to tell. And this is, I think, why a lot of females say that they don't experience side effects. It's because they think they're not seeing anything, because these changes are so acute that they're not seeing immediate changes. Like if I wasn't properly trying to test my voice, I wouldn't know. But yeah, trust me, that it has changed. And my point is, over the years of continued use down the line, you know, you'll realize that your voice has actually changed a lot. And that's why you'll see, you know, women that are maybe closer to the top of this sport, let's call it, like the pros and things, you will see them with, you know, you will hear them. You know, you probably all know someone that you can think of that has a really deep voice as a female that they never used to. And that is from anabolic use over like, you know, an extended period of time over the years. And they've got to a point where they probably don't even realize it themselves, but down the line, their voice has suddenly got a lot deeper. So yeah, acute changes won't be noticed. And that's where people maybe don't pick these things up. So yeah, that was second cycle. Okay, so after that, we took a huge break because obviously I was quite mortified that my voice was changing. So after that, so August, we wrapped that one up. And then we said, we're not doing anything else until prep until prep. Obviously, you know, we're not touching anabolics until the back end of a prep. We're not adding in Anavar until the last 4 or 5 weeks of a prep, of like, you know, pre-stage, that kind of thing, you know, so that we can aim for minimal possible duration of use to avoid virilization and these nasty side effects as much as we can. So, you know, we're not going to be introducing that until the end of prep, which we're talking April of this year, you know, because I stepped on stage in June. So that means I had a good 8-month break from any anabolic use. And that's perhaps another thing to kind of, for people to realize, is that, you know, how few cycles I've done in the time I've been assisted, just because I am a female who is wanting to avoid, you know, virilization at all costs, really. And therefore, it's really like, as a female, you can't keep just cycling things. You can't just do like, you know, 8, 10, 12-week cycles and then take 4 or 5 weeks off and then hop back on again. Like you can, if you don't mind, you know, saying goodbye to your femininity, and trashing your health as well internally, if that's your prerogative. Just do so in an informed fashion. You know, if you're hopping on and off and you're not being coached and you're just willy-nilly taking stuff, you're not getting your bloods run, all this kind of stuff, that's when the dangers really do creep in. So yeah, I think people maybe could be helped by being aware of how infrequently as a female you actually really can, you know, get away with running cycles. Obviously everyone is individual, so some people may be able to. Maybe you really genuinely didn't notice anything and you're happy to crack on and do another one. Like someone else would have been able to do another cycle before prep. Someone else would have come off in August and then maybe run another one in like January, February time. Someone else would have been able to do that. But for me, and for my own limits on what I'm willing to push, you know, it wasn't right for me to push again before prep started in that time frame. So I didn't. Cycle number 3 is obviously on prep, and that is when we are, we introduce Primo first. I run that for 4 weeks on its own, and I noticed some pretty nasty side effects. The side effects that you just don't want at all. So if people aren't really aware, side effects, anything from, you know, hair growing in the wrong places, hair falling out on the right places, and then there's like growth down there that can often occur. And this is something that I've not explicitly said on Instagram just because it's sort of a bit of a weird one to say, but you know, people have picked up on it. And at the same time, like, I've then had a lot of other females in my DMs on Instagram telling me that they've experienced the same. So it's like there's a list of common signs, that being one of them. It really does occur. It's not just it might happen. And someone DM'd me yesterday actually on Instagram, and she did say to me a really good point, that when we say side effects, which is why I'm kind of doing this a lot, people think of it as like a packet of paracetamol, where it's like, this may happen. Whereas when we are talking about anabolics, it's like, no, this is what will happen when you take these. This is what will happen. There's a list of side effects. This is what will happen to you. Like I said, it's basically biology. So you know, you are going to a degree experience some of these side effects as a result. It's like, it's not like it may occur, or you might get like feel a bit nauseous when you take paracetamol. It's like, you know, you probably will at some point see some of these things happening. You will probably see a voice deepening, you know, if you do bother to sort of test it and things like that. And like I said, for a lot of conversations I've had, the growth down there is a real thing that really does occur, and it's pretty upsetting, to say the least. And it's obviously, for me, that was a time for me to say, right, we're stopping the Primo immediately. At which point we just kind of had the Anavar into the end, and I was okay with that, to be fair. Also, I think maybe it's worth pointing out that when you're on prep, you're pretty much fucked in general, so it's very hard to even focus on these things as much. Maybe you're very focused on the end goal and getting on stage, so it's probably like less of a time when you're going to be checking things as much. But as far as I can say, I didn't really experience possibly a little bit more back acne, I would say, which again, I've spoke to other females. Yep, you know, that is another common side. You'll see, obviously, a lot of men as well will get acne when they're on steroids. You'll see their back is quite spotty and stuff like that. Common side effect as well. So I did think that I had that on prep a little bit, to be honest, but it was hard to gauge whether that was just because I was sweating so much doing cardio every day and wearing a weighted vest. So I can't confirm, you know, these are things, I haven't really experienced it since, but I've had another female DM me yesterday and say that's what she's just experienced from doing like a 6-week cycle of Anavar. So, you know, this is something that can happen as well. So basically, I think you're getting the picture that side effects for females / in general aren't very pretty, and I think, you know, it's not really too much of a surprise why people don't talk about these things. It's like, we don't really want to admit to these things. It's sort of quite embarrassing when these things happen. All I'll say as a reassurance is we pulled the Primo on prep, and my coach at the time was like, you know, things are inflamed from the androgen use. They will go back down. And obviously, like, me catching it early and checking meant that they did go back to normal, thank God. And sometimes I'll have people who message me and ask, you know, are these side effects irreversible, Emily? And the answer is, you know, to an extent, they are reversible depending on when you catch things. Like, but over the long term, if you're going to continue use, like, things are going to, you know, when ladies change the shape of their faces, that's another side effect. You'll see these really hardened jaws, and sometimes it's when people prep and when they get lean, you'll really be able to see that really hardened jaw, you know, from like Anavar use and stuff like that. So things like that, your face doesn't just go back to the shape it used to be. Like, you're changing your face forever, you know. Things don't necessarily go back. So it really depends, you know, like, you might have acne while you're on cycle and then it'll go away, obviously. I've not personally experienced like the hair growth thing, so I can't comment personally or anecdotally for that. You know, if you're starting to grow hair in the wrong places, like, is it likely that you're then going to stop growing hair in that place? You have a think about that and answer it for yourself. You know, I'm not going to answer that one. But yeah, I hope this video is kind of giving people a bit more to think about, because I don't think that these kind of conversations happen anywhere near enough. Probably even just like the fact that it's, if a female has a male coach, the male coach might feel embarrassed to talk about things, you know, going on, and the female might feel embarrassed to tell her male coach, that sort of thing, you know. If someone is a male coach giving anabolics to a female client, they should be comfortable talking about these things. They should have knowledge on these things, and you should then be able to tell them. You should have trust in your coach. This is your body. This is your forever body. It's not going anywhere. And so you need to be able to speak about it really openly and really clearly, you know. And, you know, for me, it's a case of now weighing up, what do I do going forward? Because I've just run a very short cycle of Anavar. So obviously after the Primo side effects on prep, I didn't really fancy going there again. And Anavar's not really been, as I've said so far, seemingly too bad for me. We had a bit of acne, which was again potentially from the weighted vest. The appetite thing was just like a one-off when I first started it. Nothing like untoward as such from the Anavar use. So I was like, oh yeah, sound, I'll crack on with Anavar then. 5 mg daily for 4 weeks. We then upped it to 10 for the 5th week, and that's when things down there ever so slightly, just ever so slightly, started to change again. So yeah, like I just caught onto it straight away, and like we're off things again now. So now it's a case for me of being like, what do I do? Because yeah, like it's like I've chosen this assisted route now. There's no chance of me ever competing naturally, ever, like I'd have to be natural for at least 10 years with most of the federations for them to even consider me, and that's not even part of my goals within bodybuilding anyway. Like that side of bodybuilding doesn't personally interest me from my own competitive goals perspective. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's just a case of me weighing up things now, and we all have to weigh up these things, and hopefully this video has helped to at least give some people who might be considering I'll just hop on Anavar for a couple of cycles or whatever. It might help people to just really think about it, because like I said, it's an under discussed topic within bodybuilding, within female bodybuilding. It's embarrassing to talk about. I'm fucking putting myself out here talking about it myself. Like it's very awkward. It's very private, really. But at the same time, if me talking about it this way helps a handful of people to think, actually, do I really want to go down that route? Do I really want to do that to my body? Because like I said, you're not going to be immune to side effects. Maybe you do the one cycle, which is pretty pointless anyway. If you just want to grow a bit more muscle, keep eating food and training hard, and you will. It's not like I'll just dabble with Anavar for a cycle or two. Like, it is not that. And that should never be something that you consider, in my opinion. If you're wanting to go down the assisted route, it's something for the long term, for your long-term goals, with a really specific purpose. And that is how I personally see it, based on how much risk these carry for like our femininity. Think about your fertility as well in the long term. Like, do you want children? Because extended use of these kind of things are going to stint that ability. So yeah, think about that as well. There's so much more to think about than just like the short term. I want bigger delts, I want bigger quads, so it's really something that you really have to consider. Not like, it's so easy for people to be like, never get their bloods done. I know so many people that don't get their bloods done. You never see the damage it's doing to your internal organs, and therefore you can ignore it. And like I said, a lot of the time people probably don't genuinely see the side effect. Like, are people really looking? Are people checking? Do people know what they're checking for? Are people taking accountability? Or are they avoiding it because they want that quick fix and they want to grow the muscle quickly? I think it's so easy to not check and avoid these things, because we want things quickly in this society that we live in nowadays, not just within bodybuilding and muscle building, but like in general, we want things quickly because of the way that the world and society has developed in the last 20 years. We want things like this, that. But if there was a really quick, easy way to build muscle, think about it. Most people would be doing it, but unfortunately, this isn't a really easy way to build muscle. This is a way to build muscle that is very detrimental to our health in the short and long term, and also carries some really great risks of genuinely losing parts of our femininity, of changing our physiology. Imagine just forever growing hair in the wrong place because you just decided you wanted to grow a little bit more muscle for a while, or losing hair. By the way, I noticed a lot more hair loss on my last cycle as well, which is something for me. I'm going to wait and see if I continue to have that rate of loss of hair, because sometimes I'm like with the spotty back thing, was I being paranoid because I'm on cycle? But I was losing a shitload of hair, and obviously for me, like, I've got really thick hair, so that was something for me. I was like, it's okay, that's something that I'm willing to contend with, but there's other things like that down there that I'm not willing to contend with. So like I say, there's so many other things to consider with it. Like, is it really worth it? And that is something that hopefully watching this video you'll take away and be like, actually, and this is just one girl's experience, one girl who's taken very small minimal doses. Here's some mental doses of Anavar that people take. I've taken the absolute minimal for like a minimum amount of time, and because it's like third, fourth time doing it, this is when I finally started to run into actual, virilization clearly from Anavar. Like, it's taken 4 cycles for me to actually reach a point where it is the Anavar causing that virilization for me now. So yeah, you might think you've done a cycle or two and it was absolutely fine, so crack on. but it is, you know, it is that repeated use over an extended period of time that's really going to cause the changes. And like I said earlier, that's why you will see these IFBB pros with like really deep voices and the jaws and stuff like that, because it's them having used it for a number of years. I think it was my old coach actually that he described anabolic use like filling up a bucket or something like that, and you've only got so much before it sort of spills over. So you'll do one cycle and you keep, I'm sure he said something along these lines, and you keep filling that bucket and eventually it spills, you know. So it's topping up your use over the period of time that is what's going to cause really these effects. And this isn't me saying, oh, just crack on, do one cycle of Anavar, because there's all the like short-term health risks to consider as well. And also like, why the hell would you do that? And also if you ever actually do want to compete, and you're not committing to being assisted in the long term, like why would you rob yourself of your natural status? Because once that's gone, you know, you never have the option to compete naturally, which is such a big part of bodybuilding in the sport as well. Like, yes, we might see all these like blown up incredible physiques on Instagram, but you know, behind those pictures there is a lot of sacrifice to health and femininity that's going into those physiques. So, you know, there's a whole other side of the sport that, you know, is still very exciting, very competitive, that you can get involved with if you know, your sole purpose is getting on stage, bodybuilding, giving it a go. There's a whole other realm. So, you know, try not to think so maybe short term in terms of, I want to build muscle quickly, without really having all the facts. Because people say that they've researched. People always say to me, I did my research. You didn't, did you? You didn't do your research. You did a few Google searches. You have no idea. So hopefully this video has shed a little bit of light, whilst embarrassing myself greatly with very personal private information, but at the same time hopefully it was worth it and it helped some people. And especially me opening this up to the YouTube community. It's very different on Instagram, where I've only ever really received nice comments from people that appreciate the honesty. God knows what I'm going to get on YouTube from people who do not know me. But yes, hopefully be kind. And yeah, I'll be back with more videos, you know, talking through my journey, my off season, everything like that. Hopefully this video helped some people. And yeah, that's it really. Said everything I need to say at this point. Any questions, you know, fire them into my DMs on Instagram, drop them in the comments below, and I will speak to you all in the next one. Ciao for now.